That's a tough act to follow. I'm not nervous at all. My name is Althea Thauberger. I'm an artist and a filmmaker and sometimes teacher. I usually live in Vancouver, but as Mary Jane said, I've just returned from Rijeka, Croatia, where I've been working on a new film project. Cool. You can help me maybe. The work that I do is often in response to particular sites or communities or places, sometimes very close to home and sometimes very far from home. Often I've been very fortunate to receive commissions in going into situations that I'm not familiar with, and of course these kinds of opportunities are great, but they're also very fraught and have to be approached with, I think, a certain awareness of the imperatives and apparatuses that are involved and that I'm implicated in, and that somehow those structures can be revealed through the work itself. So Rijeka is the third largest city in Croatia. It's a port city in the North Adriatic. It had been for more than 2 centuries one of the most important industrial centers in the Adriatic, and recently, in the last 30 years or so, has been in industrial decline and now has very high levels of unemployment. The site that we worked at is a former factory site, a complex that was first built in the late 18th century as a sugar refinery, and had gone through many iterations since then. Most recently, after World War II, became, with the reorganization of industry in the new Yugoslav state, became a machine parts factory. The factory is known locally by its namesake, Ricard Benčić. Benčić was a partisan, so-called national hero who died at the age of 22 from Rijeka. The Benčić factory was one of the worker-managed factories that Yugoslavia was so famous for. When it fell apart in the early mid-90s, has sat empty since then. And this process of it, of the workers losing their jobs and the attrition that happened at that time is still a very painful memory in the city, and one that many people have a relationship to. And I wanted to quickly mention a film called Ricard Benčić, for example, by local filmmakers Nadia Mustapić and Marin Lukanovic. It's online if you want to check it out. It has many interviews with former workers. Since 2000, the site was acquired by the city of Rijeka and designated shortly after that, or discussions began shortly after that, about relocating many of the city's cultural institutions to the site, including the Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art, the City Library, and the City Museum, and also as a site that was designated for the development of so-called creative industries that are never very specifically defined, but which sort of stand as a kind of vague aspiration. But since then, none of these proposals have come to fruition, and the site stands empty. This is a photograph of one of the main buildings of the site. It is known as the T object, where much of our filming took place. The project, sorry. Very quickly. The project Preuzmimo Benčić, or Take Back Benčić, involved working with about 70 child actors and local directors who already work with kids. Natalie Bozic, Natasha Antilov, Natasha Tepša, Zdravko Tovilovic, and Ivana Golub were the main people I worked with, but also many others. The story that the kids and that we worked with was that they're playing the roles of former workers who lost their jobs and had to become artists. And they wish to take back the factory for art production. Like in the actual situation of the production of our film, they only have permission for a short time. The shell of the story was basically filled in by the kids and the directors who I was working with. And I'd just like to show some footage from the last day of filming in which a confrontation or discussion between actors who were playing the roles of the worker artists and those playing the roles of 10 mayors occurred, as well as a little bit of reflection by one of the, there's the kids entering. And there's a shot of them in the space. And here we have...
Mi sad možemo sve potjerati zle tvornice, jer ovo je naša tvornica i naše vlasništvo. Zato malo poštivanje, je vam jasno? Pa, ako je... Nisi dobio riječ!
ovdje radimo znači, iz svoga srca za Benčić, a vi ste ovdje došli zadnji dan i čitate s papira i nama tu solite pamet.
Tako je.
Tako je!
U redu, slušajte ovaj argument ovako. Legislativ nije bitno. Trenutačni stanari tvornice, to ste kao vi, ne...
Mislim da većina njih se ono što ste vi rekli da su se oni toga držali. Ali mislim da je lagano ući u ulogu, barem meni, jer znači morate si totalno isključiti mozak. Znači vi niste, prebacite si nekakav klik u glavi, da znači vi niste više Jan ili bilo ko, Pero Perić, nego ste ta uloga koju vi glumite. I znači morate znati razmišljati kao ta uloga i morate znati recimo stavite se u kožu nekoga koji je radio 80 godina i sada govori sa vodećima šta će se sad napraviti sa tom tvornicom. Draga pisma o Ricardu Benčiću, niste mi se svidjela jer ste bila neistinita. Mislim stvarno, samo pogledajte 50% tvornice je razrušeno, a drugi dio je sav nikakav. Vlaga na zidovima, pala fasada, prozori popucali, sve miriše na vlagu i tako dalje. I kako oni znaju kakav je bio Rikard Benčić? Molim vas, recite mi zašto su svi zapali za taj objekt? Što je tako posebno u njemu? Sav je prašnjav i prazan. Ja mislim da ta pisma nisu baš istinita.
Dragi Rikarde, nismo na tebe zaboravili. Htjeli bi te pitati zašto su zgradu nazvali po tebi. Pitam se kako je bilo u Drugom svjetskom ratu i kako si umro. Nadam se da te ovo pitanje neće dovesti do plaća. Kako si proveo svoj život ovdje?
U ovoj zgradi je predivno, kao užareno sunce na nebu i preljepi bijeli snijeg koji gusto pada kao bijele ovčice. Ukrasili smo ovu zgradu lijepu koja bi mogla biti plaća. Volio bi urediti benčić, zvonce zvona kao zvončić. Ne bi volio da ljudi budu njemi zbog ove zgrade, jer bi dobili vrijedne nagrade. Palača blista kao suza. Mene sreća zbog zgrade oduzela. Ta zgrada je lijepa postala i do danas to i ostala.